Okay, so I'm here with Mrs. Walsh, English teacher at Centennial High School, and I'll be doing an evaluation. But before I do that, I wanted to do a pre-observation planning conference with her to just kind of go over what her lesson is going to be made up of. So, thank you for doing this. First question, what is your lesson going to be about?
It is a seminar over a reading assignment. Students will be expected to annotate and create questions about the text and then come to class prepared to engage with each other.
Okay, so let me just summarize. That it's going to be kind of a student-centered. Teacher kind of doesn't do a lot as
Correct.
far as, okay. And then as you see the lesson unfolding, what will students be doing?
They will hopefully be asking higher level thinking questions and creating conversations with each other about the text. Not plot based, but making connections to other texts, trying to develop an understanding of complex plot elements and characteristics of the main characters and connections to the outside world, their own, what's going on in their own life.
Okay, so can I be? Is it safe to say that as far as active listening skills would be
Yes.
be part of that?
In fact, if I catch them not actively listening, then points will be deducted.
Okay. All right. The next question I have is: as you envision the lesson, what do you see yourself doing to produce some of the outcomes from your students?
Well, the first time is always kind of a rough run through. They do have difficulty. I do tend to interject just slightly the first time around, just to give them understanding of where I want them to go and the types of questions they should be asking. The class period following the seminar, we will, as a class, reflect, and I will let them know what I believe the strengths of the seminar were and then areas that they need to work on.
Okay, so you let the class basically go through the first day, and then you do your reflections the next class period. Okay.
They need to get used to having a conversation with each other without looking at me for validation of whether or not they are right or not.
Okay, so they utilize basically peer analysis kind of. Okay, all right, great. What are kind of in the sequence of the lesson? What are kind of the steps that you'll be taking?
The previous class period, as I introduce the concept of the seminar, they will begin annotating the text for these higher level thinking ideas, and then creating questions centered on these ideas and actually preparing their own analysis of the questions, preparing commentary responses. Commentary is something that's measured on the EOC, short answer questions, so they do need to have ready responses so that I know that they thought through what the result would be, which I will take a grade on. They'll use those to jumpstart conversation in the following class period, where they'll use it and they will hopefully engage their peers into a conversation.
And so as far as the progression is concerned, and it kind of leads me to my next question, as far as time frame, is it that the time would be increased as far as the amount of time that would be for each segment?
They'll start with for the annotating the level questions, they will have already read the text, and then so they're going to go back to see what they can really have good analytical conversations about. So that'll be part of one class period, and then they'll complete it for homework, come to class prepared the following day. They'll start out, the first time is always the shortest one. It's not as complex. They'll start out for maybe 35, 40 minutes. Then we'll have our class reflection the following class period. So the next time we fit it into our schedule, based on the text that we're reading, they'll extend that into a longer seminar once they understand what their strengths and weaknesses are and what my expectations were following this one.
Okay. So just to kind of summarize that part, there is some stuff that's done at home as well as in the classroom,
yes.
Correct? Okay, good. All right. And you want to get to that point where it's 90 minutes, an entire class of analyzing pieces. Okay, great. What will you see your students doing or hear from them that will indicate that they're having success?
If they're able to have a conversation with their peers instead of hearing nothing. If they ask a question and no one engages, then it's not going well. But if they ask the questions and you see 5 or 6 hands go up, then that means that they're being successful, and having that validation that their peers want to discuss the same things that they brought up is a win.
And what kind of questions is it
higher order thinking questions? We want them making connections. It's not plot. It's based on inferencing skills and making connections outside the text with other text, movies, with pop culture, with things going on in the news.
So outside of their life, outside of school. Okay, great. And what are some of the concerns or hopes you have for the lesson?
Concerns are they're still being reliant on me. What they often do is they'll look at me and wait for, look to see if I'm reacting in a way that shows that they're being positive, so I try not to show them any kind of expression. So it's got to get to the point where they don't need me to smile to know that they're doing a good job.
Okay. And as far as confidence, obviously that plays a role. Too.
Exactly.
The goal is to build their confidence. Okay. All right, and the last question I have is, if I were observing the lesson, what would be some things to look for in the lesson?
Positive student engagement, students taking risks, students who are typically like to sit back and not say anything, know that their grade is dependent on participating in the lesson. So hopefully risk-taking and support of each other's ideas. They know that it has to be a positive experience, and anyone who reacts negatively, even in terms of if I disagree with what you're saying, they have to know how to do that in a respectful manner and present their ideas respectfully.
Well, it sounds like it is really a student-centered approach, and one that I think you've had some success with in the past too. So, good luck.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.